water, right? Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I think it was justified. It was self-defense.
Yeah.
He was kind of a piece of guy, you know. Didn't have a choice, frankly. And he didn't die for a long time. It was almost impossible to kill him.
Did he really die, though?
Oh.
We never
I
see
mean,
it.
honestly, did any of the characters really die other than Shaw? Because somebody...
I think Richard definitely did.
Well, you know, Bahari, the gentleman whose arm was recovered, I mean, does that necessarily mean that he died? I mean, I'm just saying.
The guy who gets his head bitten off, I think,
is dead.
Might not have made it.
Yeah. You might be right about that.
Although, I mean, swallowed whole by a shark.
I mean, I think characters survive that in Sharknado, but...
Really?
Yeah.
Which end did he come out of?
Somebody else dove in with a chainsaw to cut them out.
Of course.
It's a very serious film.
Was my first.
It's a very scientifically accurate saga.
I do love that fight, though, because just Brenton Foster just on fire coming out to brawl with you, that's something I never thought I'd see watching Deep Blue Sea 3. And it was I loved it. It was a good fight. I mean,
I think I was the only actor on set who wasn't actually scared of Bren in real life.
Yeah.
I think everyone else was terrified to fight with him. And a lot of the actors, just because he's so skilled and is a real professional fighter, were kind of worried about having to film their fight sequences with Bren, because you want to look good,
Mm-hmm.
And it's harder when you don't really know what you're doing. But he was great. I mean, it's like at that point, when you are really talented like he is, it's like a choreography, like a dance, and it's actually very soft in a sense, The time you actually ever get hurt doing a stunt is usually when you're doing it yourself or with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. But with him, it's like wushu or something. Although, Yeah,
you'd want to be with Bren, though. He kind of can control that, not somebody just winging, punches.
What's that? What'd you ask?
Well, like, you'd probably want Bren, right, to be there. That's who you'd want to
of
be
course.
a thing. Yeah.
On your side.
Yeah. No, like fighting, like a choreographed fighting. Like, you'd want someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, it makes you look good.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I wish
definitely.
Maybe in the sequel you can get a spin kick on him.
Yeah, I think Bren's splits would put me to shame, but I could do that.
I keep trying to add weird things in here. I pitched to John bringing in Scott Adkins as his cousin that's coming after you in the next one.
I think we're talking about Zombie 3 here, but
let's do that. Shoot,
I don't know. It's to the movie we're talking about. We should Bren, but maybe he's not dead. I think as a rule of thumb, if you don't actually physically see the person being buried in one of these movies, they're not dead.
That's right.
I would agree with that.
The Fast and the Furious type thing, where unless you see it, then you can bring them back.
Yeah, the Gandalf rule.
Yeah, the Gandalf rule?
Yeah.
Right.
I love it. This is random. I saw in the interview that you said you'd like to play Leatherface. And I did some research, and there are underwater chainsaws. So that could be...
I mean, yeah. Next, obviously, right?
How do we make that work?
Underwater chainsaws? How?
Yeah, like hydraulic. Yeah, so like... I typed it in because I was skeptical too.
That sounds so cool, though. Think about it.
Oh, yeah, there's a chainsaw right here just knocking out... I don't know what it's doing, but it's underwater hacking stuff up.
It's for seaweed?
I mean... Yeah. I admire movie villains who have chainsaws because it's like high risk reward. You can't move fast with it, and it's pretty dangerous, but the end effect is pretty gnarly.
Some weapon, especially underwater, considering how hard it is to move around.
Yeah, can you swim with a chainsaw? That's gonna be tricky. I suppose you could attach it to like the DPV kind of thing and just have it going in front of you.
Oh yeah, you could.
Jay's an engineer. He's figuring it out right now in his head.
This is actually quite a cool idea. Think about it.
I'm taking notes, scribbling away.
Are we signing this waiver for you?
There'll be a patent
out. Although you have time to get away, right? Because it's like, I'm coming to get you.
Well, all right, never mind. I did a math thing where I figured out how fast Leatherface ran through those sheets in the remake to catch that guy. And he ran I think a 7-second 40. I
these guys, Leatherface takes a really long time to get to his next victim, and somehow it seems like you have a lot of time to get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great. That first one's a classic. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the first movie's so good, so creepy. It's so good, so messed up. Yeah.
I remember watching it thinking it was a lot bloodier than what it was. I watched it again recently. It's more like psychological.
It's funny how those movies, like, especially when you see them when you're young, you misremember them, and you're terrified. Or you watch them again as you're older, and you're like, this is quite dark and weird, but not how I remembered it. Yeah.
Hey, John, we didn't talk about something on the last time we talked, but I love the intro of this movie because you get right at it. You get the three sharks just rolling deep together towards Little Happy, and then you just get the overhead of the shot. So like immediately you have the location, and then you have the sharks in it. Then we meet Dr. Emma Collins. I love how you got into it. You didn't want to do I like that you avoided the whole like kill co-eds or shark finners in the beginning. Like you just want to go the opposite way.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of our challenges was how do we not just feel like we're making the same movie over and over again? And these, often sequels have your standard, teaser into the movie. And I thought that the location on this was so unique, and I just wanted you to feel the aloneness of this sinking island, and Mark Killian I think amplified that with the score, and that the sort of the haunting score, but it's also broad daylight, which is I think adds to the feeling that we were going for. But I also think the three sharks moving kind of together, they're brothers. A lot of people seem to respond to the fact that they're man eaters, but they're also trying to save each other. So it kind of, that shot sort of set up everything that we were kind of going for in the movie without our main character, so that when we did go right into Emma, we had all the elements kind of swirling at once at the beginning of the movie, and also without sort of doing an action beat. It allowed there to be some suspense for when Sally crashes into Emma for the first time. So that's kind of our teaser action beat, but we saved it as opposed to just sort of front loading it. We saved it for the main character, because often in these movies, it's some sort of secondary characters that are being killed, sort of, rev you up and get you hyped. And so, we were hoping to have the audience be a little bit patient with us so that we brought that moment in a little bit later than one might traditionally do. I was that opening shot, I was frankly pretty nervous about, because it's an entirely CG shot, and it's not even using real elements and putting them together. And, we shot Ocean, we shot pieces of the village, but ultimately Black Ginger, our company, felt like they could do a better job just sort of creating it with the elements that they've already made for the movie, the three sharks, the village. And I think I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. And we were sort of all crossing our fingers, hoping that we would get what we were imagining. And so I think it led into Tania quite nicely, but it led into Tania with the what's going to happen feeling, as opposed to something happened already and now the movie's starting and I guess I'll wait 10 more minutes for something bad to happen.
Oh yeah, it was refreshing. I loved it.
Thanks.
I have a question for you, John, actually. So I never really thought about this when we were doing it, but was that a huge challenge too, that so much daylight in this movie? It's true that we barely shot at night, so to create suspense in broad daylight all the time, in summer vacation weather, must have been hard.
I mean, it's just a choice. I think that it was could we pull this off, and also it's significantly cheaper to shoot in the day. So
because I think about the first,
part of it.
the
What's
first,
that?
see, keep thinking about the first one. It's most of it's at night.
It's enclosed at night. Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, mostly underwater, mostly at night. Same with the second one's almost entirely underwater as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, to do some of my favorite horror movies, I'm thinking like The Hitcher, for example, the original, full on daylight. And, for me, always going night is boring. And so, I just think it's a little bit harder to do full on day, but maybe a little bit, but maybe kind of fun sometimes. And so we just, the budget situation made it a lot easier for us to make this choice. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying we didn't have a choice, but, definitely doing the back half of the movie in the day was a choice. And then once we made that choice, it made everything else sort of fall into place. So we're like, well, since we're doing it in the day already, let's just do the whole thing, except for that one piece, that's at night for the dinner scene, because we had to have a turn a day to sort of keep the logic of the story going. But, the other thing it's a shark movie. So even though it's full on day, the menace is hidden underwater. So you can, you're in the day, but instead of night hiding the killer, the water is hiding the killer. So you kind of have the best of both worlds, perhaps, in that the killer's still hidden, but you're in full on day. And because of our location being surrounded by water, we felt like the menace could come from anywhere at any time, because it is water. And that's why we worked very hard to try and get the feeling that the sharks could come out from underneath the foundation and the pilings at any time. So even when you were inside a house, it could still come at you. No place was safe. And that was sort of the fun of that concept.
I mean, the production design's beautiful. Yeah, whoever built that did a wonderful job out there, because I love the set. I mean, like, Costner would be jealous from Waterworld.
Tanya also built the sets. I mean,
yeah, you got out there 3 months early, right?
Yeah, we made it out of Legos. South African Legos.
I caught that last night. I was like, no way. There's no way that's Legos.
Lots of bare feet stepping on it. Really hurts.
Is that what you were yelling when you were running during one of those scenes?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I really thought when we were shooting John that more people would, because the whole set was kind of built as you see it pretty much. I mean, there's some digital stuff, but like I said before, a lot of it was really truly built in person and, very Waterworld style. So oftentimes to get from one area to the next, you got to walk down these little, wooden decks that were very thin, that were suspended kind of like suspension bridges and stuff over the water. It was a real water tank that was relatively deep in the middle. And you have people walking around with super heavy cameras, equipment, like running from thing to thing. We're doing stunts. Like, I'm surprised more people didn't slip and fall in the water. I thought for sure we would see, and no, actually, we never had anyone like really fall into the water by accident, huh?
Well, there were very minor.
Yeah, but nothing
things.
really. Yeah.
Because Thomas Jane wasn't there.
Yeah. So Franz Lewis was our production designer, and he and his team were just like so.
Did a great job.
So fantastic. But we all, the safety always has to come first. I think I talked a little bit about this last time with so many, so much electricity around, so much water. Every day I was, pretty trying to be at least hyper vigilant with our crew and cast. And we had a really great safety team. And also these people have a lot of experience working in water, which I didn't. And so, separating water from electricity and making sure everything was safe, they were quite good at this. I mean, Tanya, did you feel like you were in a safe environment? And
oh, yeah. Just thinking about you talk, like hearing your answer, like That's the one great thing about like, yeah, we felt super safe always. And, which is, it's just not a concern. We don't even think about it. That's why it was so well